right. We are live. All right. Let me just double check here on Facebook. There we are. All right. We are live. So we are back. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Mandy. You guys know me. Some new members who just come in. I haven't been live in a really long time. I'm so sorry. It's just been a busy summer and fall. So I'm back and I hope to do this more regularly again. And I'm here today with my special friend and guest and colleague, Monique Attinger. Hi.
Hi, Mandy. Great to be here.
Some of you know her because I know a lot of you are on the TLO group. So here she is. You probably see her name when she posts things in this group and also in the TLO group. So now you get to see us face to face. We're more than just a message. We are real life people here, here to talk to you about a very important topic that I came up with for my own healing 10 years ago, but then discounted it because I was just shocked that the things I was learning in the health industry was contrary to what I thought with health and how to eat. And so I just was like, nope, can't be, nope. And I was very weight conscious at that time too. And so for me, it was like, I can't eliminate these foods. These are what's keeping me skinny, you know? So that was a big mistake because my IC problems just spiraled out of control to the point where I hit rock bottom. You guys know my story. I don't need to get too much into it, but I was at the end of my rope. And so I decided to open the door back up and realize that I had to make some significant changes. And so Monique also has her own personal story as well. You want to share that real quick too?
Yeah, sure. I'll give the Reader's Digest version. I was 48. I had kids late in life. I had a 2.5-year-old and an almost 8-year-old. And we went to our trusted naturopathic doctor, and that doctor said to me, oxalates. And I said, what's an oxalate? But I was very motivated because my daughter was not doing well. She had vulvodynia style symptoms. She had rashes that looked like chemical burns, like more like hives almost, but huge, like over all of her buttocks and down the backs of her legs. And then he said the word oxalate. And so we decided to tackle this diet. And I, like you, Mandy, had no idea this might have anything to do with me. I just thought I was being a good parent, following the diet so that my daughter would feel like somebody else was eating like her. And at the time I was dealing with a very low thyroid. I had adrenal issues. The adrenals were low. I had horrific digestive issues. So I just was taking handfuls of things to just get my food through. IBS-C, which is the constipation version, which is not fun either. And really poor immunity, poor resilience. I'd get something and struggle for weeks or months. So not good when you got an 8-year-old who's going to school and bringing all sorts of things home. And so, you know, I wasn't doing great. Oh, and insomnia. So we get on this diet and I see all those things start to shift in unison. Not perfect, but I'm starting to see that I'm doing better. And I'm thinking, what the heck? So then I started to dive into this oxalate thing. And long story short, now I've been dealing with clients for almost 10 years, helping them also deal with the oxalate in their diet and seeing people get wonderful results. Like anytime they've got chronic pain, chronic inflammation, and conditions that where the chronic pain or chronic inflammation is the underpinning, which of course is most of the things that people really wrestle with today. So, and I went from being a 48-year-old who thought she wouldn't see her kids grow up to being a now 61-year-old who is
vibrant and healthy,
doing well, thriving, right? Not just surviving anymore, thriving. Yeah.
You know, and that's a really good point about chronic pain, because I know I hyper focus on bladder because that was my chronic pain. Although I did have other chronic pain, I didn't mention. I had a lot of joint pain that was on and off intermittent. All of a sudden my knee would hurt. And I'm like, is this from working out? No, I'm still working out. I don't have the knee problems. I almost wonder if people that I meet, like that come to my classes, I teach fitness classes, and they have knee problems and knee surgeries. Could that have been avoided with the lower oxalate type of diet? I wonder that now, you know, and I start to try to analyze. One of them particularly was a vegan, and she had a full knee replacement at age 50. So it makes me wonder.
Well, there's now research which says that if you've got arthritis and it's not responding in a typical way for that form of arthritis, or you can't get a diagnosis, that we should be looking for oxalate as one of the underpinnings. So yeah.
I had pain in my jaw, just and one of them turned out to be a root canal, but I don't know if I actually needed that root canal, because what ended up happening was long story short, they were trying to get another root canal here, and I did systemic ozone and it cleared it up. So I realized there was an infection that was embedded in there, but how did it get there in the first place? I'm wondering if there's a relationship with the immune connection. But what was really eye-opening, and we're going to talk about the myths today, because I think there's a lot of myths around this, was really eye-opening was when we opened up the door to the mast cell piece. And that's a whole nother huge area of opportunity for healing and growth in this area, because we just had this conversation. Why is it that some people can go and have a high oxalate diet and they don't really have any symptoms that we're dealing with? And is there a mast cell connection and predisposition to mast cells? And yes, we do think so, because a lot of people have underlying allergies. And there's that mast cell link to that. And so when you open the door to their health history and you start to see what they've had to deal with as a child and how it progressed to where it's at today, it's very important for you guys listening who are suffering with bladder pain to understand that there is a complex interaction between oxalates and your immune system. And mast cells are sitting in the innate immune system, that arm. So there is that relationship. So if you're concerned about COVID and any of the complications of it, either before or after, you should be listening here, because if you're following a high oxalate diet or you're producing a lot of oxalates endogenously, you will have complications. We know that because that's now in the literature about mast cells.
Yeah.
So let's go through some of these myths. Okay. There's now those of you who haven't downloaded my ebook, you can grab the link for the ebook. I can post the link here and you guys can grab the ebook. If those of you who've downloaded it might have already read this, or maybe you haven't read it yet, but we're just going to be here to summarize it, because it's very, very important for you to understand what you're dealing with. Because I think sometimes people are falsely under the impression that, oh, I can just do this and that, and I'm going to get healed. And we're here to say, no, it's more than that. And that's why we're presenting this group coaching for you guys to help you walk you through that. So myth number 1, if you don't have kidney stones, and you will hear this from your doctor, because your doctor will tell you, no, you now have history of kidney stones, you don't have an oxalate issue. And the truth is
that the kidneys are just one of the places where oxalate shows up. So research is now showing us that oxalate can become stranded in the thyroid. So how much of the low thyroid issue could have oxalate as part of it? And when we do look at the rest of the body, which we don't start to do until somebody's got kidney stones or their renal function is dropping, we start to find that oxalate is in lots of places. And that can include the joints and the bones and the various organs. You can actually have oxalate just about anywhere, but some interesting places, the eyes, it can get stranded in the eyes. And so people will report things like, either eye inflammation, or if they're getting oxalate out of their system, they can get a lot of sort of crusty bits around their eyes. So essentially, oxalate can be trafficked just about anywhere in the body. And we don't look for that until the kidneys are failing. So that doesn't mean it's not doing something long before the kidneys fail. And I think that's where people end up, like me or you, finding out that oxalate's part of our problem, but nobody told us because we weren't distinctive. We didn't have the kinds of symptoms that are automatically associated with it, particularly this business of kidney stones.
That's why they call it idiopathic, because they just don't know.
They just don't know. Exactly.
I renamed it to idiopathic. All right, moving on.
Doctor language to explain something they don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
But in essence, the biggest problem is we just don't look for it.
Yeah.
It's so the idea that somehow this natural toxin, which can actually be poisonous, isn't doing something to us just because we're not looking for it to be doing something to us is, one of those put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 and kind of hope for the best.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we've been kind of ignoring it because we thought the only way it turned up is kidney stones. And I think the research is starting to show that's not correct.
Exactly. So that's the first myth. The second myth is all you got to do is go low oxalate diet and take in more calcium and your problem is fixed. And let me tell you how many times people who've come in to either explore, one-on-one coaching or group coaching, they're like, nah, I got what I need. I got the food list online. I could just do this myself. And then they come back 6 months later. I'm still in pain. It didn't work. That was me. I did that. That's why I gave up on the low oxalate diet, because the first time I did it, I didn't get the instant results. Maybe I wasn't doing it correctly. Maybe the lists weren't inaccurate, because on web, those lists are all over the map. So we're going to give you and explain to them what they're getting. Where are these lists that we're providing them? Where are these values of oxalates coming from so that they can trust the accuracy of it?
Right. So the biggest thing for me is that the list that we've constructed is built on the best data that I can get. And so I've looked for places where they do ongoing testing so that maybe we have more than one data point so that we can, I can give an estimated value for something, as opposed to if you do a single data point, there's varieties in how much oxalate might be in the food. In the same way, there's variety of how much calories there might be in a food.
Yeah.
So when we're doing repeated testing, it gives us a better idea of where a food actually is. We can kind of get where it averages out. So I'm looking for the latest data. And because we're actually dealing with low oxalate and low histamine kind of crossover here, I base all of the histamine values on the data that comes from the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital out of Australia. And the reason I do that is they do actual testing. So it's not just somebody's opinion, oh, I was able to eat this and I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I've tried to take a conservative viewpoint on this and say, I'm going to go with the best data possible. And then beyond that, our new list for this time is going to show where they can kind of go up a category, because sometimes people do have unique tolerances. So maybe something works as a histamine trigger for one person and it doesn't work as a histamine trigger for another. So our revised one is going to have this wiggle room built into it. So when you're having a really bad day, you stick to the very clear cut values. But if you're doing okay, like your seasonal allergies, it's wintertime, so you're not having seasonal allergies, great. Maybe you can try some of these stretch foods or whatever we want to call them, where we can see whether or not this is something that'll work for you. So best possible science with, I guess, a bias towards leaving options in the diet, not taking them out permanently, because I think some of that can become a little bit tough for people. People start to feel food phobic.
Yeah, we don't want that.
And we don't want that. Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah, and I know one person was very upset about the leftover thing. And we'll teach you all of that. And we don't need to get into it now. We'll teach you all of that on like what you can do to minimize. And remember, histamine is something that you can probably improve over time with, gut, balancing and, improving your microbiome. The oxalate piece is a little bit not so flexible. But again, everyone has their upper threshold too. So just because one person only can tolerate 50 milligrams, somebody else might be a little higher. So it's very personalized nutrition is exactly what's going on here. It's individual to
Absolutely.
You. So not what Sally did or what Bob did, it's what you need. And that's where, even though we're not necessarily going to, there's no one-on-one coaching, but if with the group, you're going to get to be able to extrapolate what your upper thresholds could be. And we're going to walk you through that.
Exactly. And because it is a threshold thing, that's why I've left this wiggle room in, so people can kind of play a little bit and see where the trade-offs are for them.
So going low oxalate may not be the only thing and getting more calcium. And the reason for that is due to their own biochemistry, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know, because of your experience with it as well, there can be other factors that are contributing to some of the symptoms that you're having. So I talk about it as a little bit of a dance with the diet. if you get up on the floor to do a waltz with somebody, you're going to get to the other side of the room, but you might go in circles a bit on their way there. So it's a little like that. So, I think what we've done is try to build a toolkit for them so they can handle how that journey goes too.
And it also opens the door for you to investigate other things. You might need to have a conversation with your doctor about running some mast cell tests to see if you have MCAS, MCAD, or mastocytosis. That's the more severe form of it. That would be, you based on the materials we'll provide, you'll be able to kind of say, yeah, I think I might have that, or no, it's probably not that. Because there are specific symptoms that are associated with mast cell activation syndrome. Some people might be more heavy on the histamine. So I've had people who are very histamine sensitive, very sensitive, but they don't really notice the oxalates as much. But then there's some people who, as soon as they eat something higher in oxalate, they like a potato, the next day they have pain. Yeah. So it's all, everyone's so different on that. There's that threshold, there's that gradient, and where you fall within that gradient is very individual. And it does also change over time. So it's not just as simple as going low oxalate and taking some calcium and everything's fine and dandy. There's some healing that needs to be done. So the next myth brings me to, just cook it, boil it, eat it, you're good.
Yeah, see, this is one of those ones where there's a grain of truth here. There's actually a grain of truth in the last one too, which is, taking calcium with your meals can be helpful, but it's one tool in a set of tools, and you kind of have to know how to use it. And so what I would say is there are foods you can cook where they're relatively high in oxalate, and you can take that oxalate down. So a great one would be like oats, where if you soak it, pitch the water, soak it, pitch the water, and then cook it, you're going to do a lot better. And maybe you cook it with some milk so you've got the calcium. So you're doing, again, some of this taking it, like getting a mineral with the food in order to avoid some of the absorption. Mm-hmm. But a food like spinach, there is no way that cooking it's going to make that safe ever. And so grain of truth, definitely part of the toolkit, but you kind of have to know where to apply it, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like I always boil Brussels sprouts before if I'm going to even saute it with garlic now, whereas before I would just cut it and grill it, not boiled. So those are little things you can do. And I'm not going to eat 20 of them like I used to, maybe 3 or 4, and that's going to be another piece of this that I've created as part of another program we're going to release next year, which is Viva Immune. But I want to share these documents with you guys because I did put together a beautiful color guide to help you create colors of the rainbow with your diet, because those colors are what we're finding is it's the small exposure to the variety of species of food that help with optimizing your microbiome and how microbiome influences the immune system. So it would be, rather than, I think a lot of people are just used to when they're eating a vegetable, I'm just going to eat 2 cups of broccoli and that's my veggie for the day. And I'm saying, no, you're making a medley. So you might do a 1/4 cup of this and a 1/4 cup of that and an 1/8 of a cup of this and an 1/8 of a cup of that. And that's a really nice way to diversify the diet with different phytonutrients and colors, but also does help minimize your exposure to one high oxalate food, because you might do 2 Brussels sprouts instead of a whole, which I used to do, a whole plate of them.
Yeah. No, I love what you came up with that way in terms of how to handle the plate.
Yes, I have that too.
There's a wonderful example in there of how you can still have some of these higher oxalate foods, but if you balance it out with lower oxalate foods, then you get a plate where you're able to take advantage of diluting the higher oxalate food with the lower oxalate food. Mm-hmm. And again, it's another piece of the toolkit. And so, I love that we're going to go over that, because I think that's a really great way for people to think about it. And certainly I use that in a lot of my recipes, and people are going to get some of those recipes from you and I, and this might open up for them a way to have some of their family favorites and not have the same level of oxalate. So
yeah, I mean, jicama fries, and so I love squashes. There's so many squashes out there that I didn't even know about. Like, I know, just walk right by it because they look ugly. But then when I looked up that they were low oxalate, I'm like, oh wow, they actually kind of taste like sweet potatoes, some of them. So you can kind of play around with that. Okay, myth 4, you need to detox out of your body as fast as you can.
No, no. Even when people just say this to me, isn't it better if I get it out faster? No. Big problem here is it's toxic going in, it's toxic going out. It's not like you declawed it just because you got it into your body. It's still able to do damage. And, your kidneys are going to take the brunt of that largely, because if it's inside and circulating in the bloodstream, the kidneys are the ones that do most of that work. And, you need those organs for a lifetime. You do not want to have them struggling because they've been overloaded with oxalate as part of your body kind of getting it out. And it would be one thing if we could drop our diet low and then oxalate would leave in a steady, predictable stream, and we could then know how to react to it. But it's a bit of a roller coaster ride, as you and I both know, because oxalate will kind of hit the bloodstream and wave, drop. And so I think one of the set of most important tools is what we do to respond to that way of oxalate leaving our body, and how we mitigate some of the symptoms that are happening, and just make the process as gentle as we can make it. It's never going to be perfect, but it certainly can be easier or harder. And I think you and I agree it's best to be in the easier side of things.
Yeah. We don't want to overcomplicate it, but we also don't want to make you become debilitated because you've maybe done it too quickly, because that dumping is not fun. I had it happen to me. It takes a long time for it to go away once it starts. So if we can just not do it and try to avoid it from actually happening or triggering it, then you'll be in a much better state. It might take a little longer to achieve your goals that way, but that seems to be slow and steady wins the race. We know this in everything in life. Anyway, there's no shortcuts to life. So just my pep talk there, slow and steady wins the race. So myth 5, some of you come into me with organic acid testing that other doctors have run, and you're asking me, well, how come my oxalates are low on the oat, but you're telling me I have an oxalate issue?
Yeah. So an oat, as good as it is a spot test. And so if you did the oat at a time when you weren't actively getting rid of oxalate that's been stored in your body, then the oat may look okay in terms of oxalate. And then there are some other factors, like certain things in the oat test may exacerbate how bad oxalate looks or really underplay it. And one of them is the creatinine level in your oat test. So we've got a couple of things that can be working against us. The fact that oxalate doesn't leave the body in a steady stream. So if I'm at the down cycle of getting oxalate out, then I may look absolutely fine. But if I'm on the top, then I might look really bad, and I might look even worse than I am on average. So the oat test is not a completely exclusionary test. It's a let's get some information test and then maybe even track over time. We don't have a really good test where if we get it, it's a yes or no. I either do or I don't. There's no test like that I know of. And while there are blood tests for oxalate, you can't even get somebody to run it on you unless you've got renal issues. And so we really don't know what the normal level of oxalate is in the bloodstream.
Yeah,
So
we tried Arup Labs, and the response was, because I reached out to them, no, you have to do it in a hospital. So yeah.
So there's, so an oat is helpful, but not definitive. I guess that's the way to put it.
Yeah. And I get excited when I see it's high, because I'm like, oh, yay, we found it. But I always warn people ahead of time. If it's high, if it's low, doesn't mean that it's really low. It's just weren't excreting it at the time of you collected the urine. So, or it might have been diluted, or it could be anything. So, okay. So that was the 5 myths. And as anybody listening here, there's a few people here. Do you have any questions for us? So we are really excited because we have spent a lot of time putting together this course, which is group coaching. And let me sneak peek it here so you guys can see it in Practice Better. And we are giving you all $100 discount, those of you listening. So you can
That's
use
a pretty good incentive.
Oh yeah, here's your code, save 100. Boom. So you guys listening, for just to thank you for attending today or just giving us your time. Here is a sneak peek of our program here. Okay. So it's 4 weeks. Oops, there we go. And we've got a welcome here. So what's basically going to happen is you're going to have a short, I didn't want to give you too much to do, because my experience has been lately is people just don't have time, to spend there on lots and lots of reading material. They just don't. So we're trying to keep it as short and sweet as possible. And, I'm going to give you a task, some information about the task. And then at the end, you'll just have, just some, information, and then a video, possibly, depending on what module we're in, and then a Facebook Live group activity, because there's going to be two pieces to the coaching part of this. 3, actually. There's going to be the videos. Some of them are mandatory, like strongly recommended, and then some of them are like optional for your information, because I just have so much material that I'd love to share, but I don't want to overwhelm anybody. So that's why I keep it like as to the point as possible. And then we're going to have the Zoom calls, private, which will be just Monique and I and you guys. It's going to be intimate. Last time we had 8, and I think usually about 4 to 5 would show up, and then we would record it and give you the recording, and so you have access to that, which I'll place in the portal. And then the third part will be sharing Facebook, and I like this because it's going to kind of keep you accountable, because I'm going to have points with each activity. So like activity 1 would be to introduce yourself. And so we can see your beautiful face, and you'll get 5 points for that. And the next one will be like to show an image of you holding a food that could have been contributing to inflammation. Because the first week, we're not even exploring oxalates yet. So even though we talk a lot about oxalates here, this program is actually morphed into more of a Monique and Mandy thing, as opposed to before it was low oxalate coaching. And it's kind of morphed more into healing your chronic pain with Monique and Mandy. So we're actually going to probably be using your help to help us name our new program. And we're thinking calling it Monique and Mandy, the M&M. So anyway, that's off topic. We'll talk about that later, but we are thinking about switching it, because this is more than oxalates. You're going to be learning how to heal your leaky gut. You're going to be learning how to detoxify your body. You're going to be learning about how to avoid other inflammatory foods, not just oxalates, things like wheat and dairy, which is very inflammatory for people, especially if you have celiac in your family, right? So we'll be talking about that. And so I'm going to be asking you to look into your refrigerator. If you're eating things that are high in food coloring, share it with us. Say, hey, I've been eating this food. It's been high in food coloring. I didn't know. And then you're going to show a video of you eating something anti-inflammatory or adding it to your diet. And then for an extra 2 points, you'll tell us why you picked that. And I gave you a list of things that you can choose from that are anti-inflammatory. Okay. And obviously we're going to talk in the group about something like ginger. Yes, it's an oxalate food, but there's a way you can incorporate it by juicing it that's going to help reduce the oxalate. So that's the beauty of our coaching. You can also do extracts, for example. So you're not left in the dark when you're looking online for information and you're just not sure what you're reading is doable. You know what I mean? Can I have this, or what can I do to minimize? Because we're not trying to create food fear, like Monique said. That's not what we want to do. No. So that's week 1. And then we've got week 2. That's when we introduce you. So just so you see what you're going to get, you're going to get Monique's cliff notes, right? For how to, and this is going to be what we're going to be talking about in the group. So I'll import the video here. And then there's a video that I want you to watch about mast cells, just one. And then we go into the group activity with the points that you can earn, which I'm going to track your points, and then look at these handouts. So you're going to get a bunch of handouts here to help you get started on your journey. And then we're going to be there to answer your questions in the Facebook group and also in our Zoom calls to help you with that process. But again, like I said, the videos are, some of them I require, and then other ones are a little bit more, like in module 3, I have a little more. This is a little bit of a busy one about the gut. So this is like the one I want you to watch. And then the rest of them here are supplemental, okay, optional videos. See? So I'm trying to keep it doable, like something you can do. So, and I haven't worked on module 4 yet, but it's coming. That's the detox module. So that's a sneak peek. And we're excited to
value there. Lots of good value there. just for those do-it-yourselfers who, you know, would want to try and put together this on their own, like even just from the standpoint of looking up information on oxalate, those lists out there are ugly. Like really what we've done is a lot of the footwork as well in terms of those baseline handouts and the kinds of materials that they'll have. And honestly, you know, I know people say this all the time, but gosh, I wish I'd had it when I started, because boy, there were some mistakes I made. Anyway.
Yeah, she's even created a high magnesium, low oxalate, low histamine list, a high calcium, low oxalate, low histamine list, a high, what was the other one? Potassium. And I think we're going to add selenium to that one, a high selenium, low oxalate. Well, you know, there's not a ton, but there's quite a bit. And then there's supplements that you'll get, like a toolkit for supplements, things to help reduce the impacts, like things like, you know, sulfur-based types of things to help reduce inflammation, probiotics. I mean, things like that. That's just gonna, and again, the one thing I do want to say, and this is really, really important, this stuff takes time. You're not going to heal overnight. In fact, some cases for me, I got worse before I got better. That's everything in life though. You know, I don't think life is
up and down thing too, right? So I keep telling folks, it's not a sprint. It's more like a marathon. You just need to like know that what you're doing is going to work over the long haul and be able to hang in there with it. And that's where we can share what works over the long haul.
Yeah, it's definitely not the linear down that we think we want. It's more of up and down, but it's very similar to when people lose weight. When they lose weight, I remember like I had to have the same conversation with my weight loss coaching clients when I was weight loss coaches. You're not going to lose weight in the steady, like 2 pounds a week is such a fallacy. That is not what happens. You're going to lose a little and then you're going to be steady and you're going to gain a little and it's going to feel like you've gained weight, but no, it's just water shifting in the body, you know, and then you go down again and then it's a low, you get the new low and you're like, oh, I lost all this weight. And then boop, spikes back up. That's how it's going to be too. It's part of the healing journey. So yeah.
Yep.
Any other last things? Yes. Would you like to share anything else?
Only that in my 60s, I'm probably healthier than I've been since my late 20s, early 30s. So the difference that this can make in the trajectory of your health over time. 48, I thought I had not enough to make it till my kids were adults. And I now have a 15-year-old and I have a almost 21-year-old. And I'm plotting for what I'm going to do with the grandbabies when they arrive. So it can be such a game changer.
Oh yeah, it really can. I see my mom who's got so many health issues, and we did run an organic acid on her, and she did demonstrate to have an oxalate problem, tons of joint pain, tons of autoimmune issues. But you know, at this point in time, sometimes when you're 70, it's just hard to make dramatic changes at 70 when, you know, she's a little old school. So, you know, it's been a struggle trying to get her to adopt this idea. But, you know, we do have the conversation once in a while with Mom, that's really high oxalate. What are you doing? You know, so, but yeah, it's just, she's been in a lot of chronic pain for a number of years. So we don't want you to be in that kind of chronic pain. I just put the link for this on, let me see, it works on our, right below our video. And yes, it works. And I changed the word to heal your chronic pain for good. Seems more like what we're doing here. Yeah.
It really is. It's we want you to dodge the bullet. Like, why end up in your 60s with arthritis or whatever, which is where I thought I would be. And instead in my 50s, I took up karate. And so it became completely different once I had the energy and the stamina and the resilience. And yeah, I was saying this to Mandy just before we got on live here. We want you to thrive, not just survive.
Exactly. That's exactly what we want. So, yeah. All right. Well, it's been fun. We're hoping to see you, and we'll see you in the course. Bye, Monique.
Bye,
everyone.